My God, how was I this blind? My best friend showed up to the Halloween party wearing one half of a matching couple costume. Alone. Just waiting for me to get it. Our entire friend group had been placing bets on how deeply she was in love with me. The doorman of our building knew. Her mother knew. Even the neighbor's dog probably knew. And me? I thought she was just being kind. Incredibly kind. Absurdly kind. In this story, you're about to discover how someone can be brilliant at everything in life, but completely, utterly oblivious when it comes to love. This is the story of how I almost lost the best thing that ever happened to me, because I couldn't see what was right in front of my face. Leave a comment telling me which city you're listening from, so I can see how far this beautiful story is reaching, and take the chance to subscribe to the channel, helping me reach 2,000 subscribers. The thing about being oblivious is that you don't know you're oblivious. That's the whole point, right? If you knew, you wouldn't be oblivious anymore. So there I was, living my best life in Portland, Oregon, completely unaware that I was walking around with my eyes closed to the most obvious thing in the world. It was October 15th, 2025, when everything started to become clear, though I wouldn't realize it for weeks. I'd met Riley 4 years ago at Portland State University. She was sitting in my Introduction to Environmental Science class, and I remember thinking she had the kind of laugh that made everyone around her want to laugh too. We became friends instantly, the kind of friends where you don't need to make plans because you just naturally end up together. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates. Dinner dates turned into road trips. Road trips turned into her having a key to my apartment. By the time we graduated, Riley wasn't just my best friend. She was my person. My ride or die. The one I called at 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. The one who knew exactly how I took my coffee. Oat milk, 1 sugar, a tiny splash of vanilla. The one who showed up with Thai food and terrible reality TV when I had a bad day at work. What I didn't know was that she was also the person who'd been in love with me for the past 2 years. I found this out, ironically, from everyone except Riley herself. It started with my friend Devin. We were at our favorite brewery in the Pearl District on October 18th, a Saturday evening. The October rain was coming down in that gentle, persistent way that Portland does so well, and we were sitting by the window with our IPAs, watching the streetlights reflect off the wet pavement. "Dude," Devin said, shaking his head, "you're actually insane." "What? What did I do now?" I asked, genuinely confused. "Riley literally texted you 3 times today asking if you wanted to grab dinner. 3 times. And you said you were tired and wanted to stay in." I shrugged. I was tired. I had a rough week at the nonprofit. "You're always tired," Devin said, "but you always make time for her anyway. Because you like spending time with her." "Yeah, because she's my best friend." Devin stared at me like I'd just told him the earth was flat. "Okay, I'm not even going to say it. I'm just going to sit here and let you figure it out on your own. But I'm telling you, when you finally get it, you're going to feel like an idiot." I didn't get it. By late October, the rain had become constant, and Portland had settled into that gray, moody season that either makes you want to stay inside forever or drives you absolutely crazy. I was somewhere in between. I was working long hours at the nonprofit where I'd landed a job as a program coordinator, helping with community outreach initiatives. It was fulfilling work, but it was exhausting. Riley, meanwhile, had become even more present in my life. She'd pick me up from work. She'd bring me lunch on days when I forgot to eat. She'd sit with me while I worked on reports, not saying much, just being there. I remember one night in particular, October 28th, when I was stressed about a presentation I had to give to our board of directors. "You're going to kill it," she said, sitting on my couch while I paced around my living room, practicing my speech for the 100th time. "How do you know?" I asked. "Because you care about this work. Because you're smart. Because you're the kind of person who actually shows up for people." She paused, and I noticed something in her voice that I couldn't quite place. "You show up for everyone." "I try," I said, not really thinking about what she meant. What I should have been thinking about was why she was looking at me like that. Why her eyes had that soft, vulnerable quality. Why she'd said everyone in a way that sounded like it meant something specific. But I didn't think about it. I was too caught up in my own head, too focused on my own anxieties, too blind to see what was happening right in front of me. The presentation went well, by the way, and Riley was the first person I called to tell her. She screamed with excitement, and I remember thinking how lucky I was to have a friend who cared that much about my success. I still didn't get it. Halloween fell on a Tuesday that year, but our friend group had decided to throw a party on Saturday, November 1st. It was the kind of party that Portland does well, a mix of people from different parts of our lives, a house in the Hawthorne neighborhood decorated with tasteful pumpkins and string lights, a playlist that somehow managed to be both fun and atmospheric. I decided to go as a vampire. Classic, simple, effective. I'd bought fake fangs from a costume shop on SW Alder Street and borrowed a black suit jacket from my coworker. I thought I looked pretty good. Riley showed up about an hour after I did, and she was wearing a matching couple costume. Specifically, she was wearing a Bonnie and Clyde outfit, a 1920s style dress, a fake gun holster, a fedora. The kind of costume that only makes sense if you're wearing it with someone else. The kind of costume that screams, "I'm waiting for my partner to show up." Except she showed up alone. I remember standing in the kitchen of the party, holding a beer, watching her walk in. She looked absolutely stunning. Her dark hair was styled in waves, her makeup was perfect, and she had this nervous energy about her that I'd never quite seen before. She scanned the room, and when her eyes found me, she smiled. But it was a different kind of smile than usual. It was hopeful. It was vulnerable. It was the smile of someone who was about to do something brave. "Hey," she said, walking over to me. "You made it." "Of course I made it," I said. "I've been here for an hour. What's with the costume? You're missing your Bonnie." She laughed, but it sounded a little strained. "Yeah, well, I was hoping my Bonnie would figure it out." I genuinely didn't understand what she meant. "Figure what out?" I asked, taking a sip of my beer. Before she could answer, our friend Jasmine appeared at my elbow. She was dressed as a witch, complete with a broomstick and a pointed hat. "Oh my God," Jasmine said, looking between Riley and me. "This is painful. This is actually painful to watch." "What's painful?" I asked. "Nothing," Riley said quickly, shooting Jasmine a look that could have killed. But Jasmine wasn't done. "You know what? I'm going to say it. Riley is clearly—" "Jasmine, no," Riley interrupted, her face turning bright red. "Completely in love with you, and you're standing here like an idiot asking what her costume means." The world seemed to stop for a second. The music kept playing. People kept talking and laughing around us. But in my little bubble with Riley and Jasmine, everything went quiet. "What?" I said, looking at Riley. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "I'm going to kill Jasmine." "You should," Jasmine said cheerfully. "But first, Maybe you should tell her how you feel instead of showing up to parties in couple costumes and hoping she develops psychic powers. I looked at Riley. Really looked at her. And suddenly, everything started clicking into place. The late-night voice messages, the way she always made time for me, even when she was busy. The way she looked at me sometimes, like I was the most important person in the world. The way she'd been there for every single bad day, every single victory, every single moment. Oh my God. Riley, I said slowly. I'm going to get a drink, Riley said, and she walked away from me. I stood there holding my beer, feeling like the biggest idiot in Portland. Which, given the size of Portland, was saying something. Devin appeared next to me a few minutes later. So, you finally figured it out? How long have you known? I asked. Since literally the beginning, he said. We all knew. We had a betting pool going on how long it would take you to notice. I had November 15th. Looks like I'm going to win. This isn't funny, I said. It's a little funny, he said. But also, dude, you need to go talk to her. I found Riley on the back porch of the house, smoking a cigarette. She didn't smoke. I'd never seen her smoke in the 4 years I'd known her. Hey, I said. Hey, she replied, not looking at me. So, that costume was a stupid idea, she finished. I know. Jasmine told me it was a stupid idea. I did it anyway because I'm apparently a glutton for punishment. Riley. It's fine, she said, finally turning to look at me. Her eyes were wet. It's fine. We can just forget this happened. We can go back to how things were. I'm sorry for making it weird. You didn't make it weird, I said. I made it weird by being completely oblivious. She laughed, but it was sad. You're not oblivious. You're just you. And you see me as your best friend, which is great, which is actually perfect, because that's what I am. That's what I want to be. But her voice said something different. Her voice said she wanted to be more. Riley, I said, I need to think about this. I need to, process. Okay, she said quietly. But I don't want to lose you, I added. You won't, she said. I promise. But we both knew that wasn't entirely true. Something had shifted. The comfortable ease of our friendship had been disrupted. And now I had to figure out what I actually felt. Because the truth was, I had no idea. The first week of November was the worst week of my life. Not because anything bad happened, but because everything was suddenly uncertain. I couldn't stop replaying moments. Every time Riley had done something kind, I was now analyzing it through a different lens. Every time she'd looked at me a certain way, I was wondering if there was more to it than I'd thought. Every time she'd made me laugh, I was wondering if she was doing it because she loved me, not just because she was my best friend. The problem was, I didn't know how I felt about her, and I hated not knowing things. I threw myself into work. November 3rd. Through November 7th, I worked 14-hour days. I coordinated a community outreach event in Southeast Portland, helping to set up a resource fair for homeless youth. It was important work, meaningful work, but it was also a convenient excuse to not think about Riley. She didn't reach out much during that week. A few texts here and there, but nothing like before. No surprise visits with coffee. No random memes sent at 2 a.m. No voice messages asking if I wanted to hang out. I missed it. I missed her. By November 8th, I was miserable. I was sitting in my apartment on a Saturday evening alone, eating Thai food that I'd ordered myself instead of having Riley bring it over. The rain was coming down hard outside my window, the kind of rain that makes Portland feel like the loneliest place on earth. I called Devin. "I think I'm in love with Riley," I said without any preamble. "Yeah, no shit," he replied. "Welcome to the party. We've been waiting for you." "How do you know?" I asked. "How do you know that what I feel is love and not just, I don't know, fear of losing her?" "Do you think about her when you wake up?" Devin asked. "Yes." "Do you want to tell her things, like the first person you want to talk to about your day?" "Yes." "Do you get jealous when she talks about other people?" I paused. "Yes." "Do you want to kiss her?" I paused again, longer this time. I think so. I don't know. Maybe. I've never thought about it before. "Well, think about it now," Devin said. I thought about it. I thought about Riley's laugh. I thought about the way she bit her lip when she was concentrating. I thought about how safe I felt when she was around. I thought about the curve of her neck, the softness of her voice, the way she made me feel like I was the most important person in the world. Oh, God. "I'm in love with her," I said. "Yes," Devin confirmed. "You are. So what are you going to do about it?" "I don't know," I said. "What if I mess it up? What if I tell her, and she doesn't want to be my friend anymore? What if I ruin everything?" "What if you don't?" Devin countered. "What if you tell her, and she's the happiest person in the world? What if you spend the rest of your life together? What if this is the best decision you ever make?" "That's a lot of what ifs," I said. "Yeah, well, life is a lot of what ifs," Devin said. "But some what ifs are worth taking a chance on." After we hung up, I sat there in my apartment, rain pounding against the windows, and I made a decision. I was going to tell Riley how I felt. I was going to be brave. I was going to risk everything because the alternative, spending the rest of my life wondering what if, was worse. But I needed to do it right. I needed to do it in a way that showed her how much she meant to me. I needed to do it in a way that made it clear that this wasn't just about attraction or convenience. This was about love. Real, genuine, terrifying love. I spent the next week planning. November 15th was a Saturday. It was also the day I'd decided to tell Riley how I felt. I'd planned everything meticulously. Too meticulously, probably. But I was nervous, and when I'm nervous, I plan. It's what I do. The plan was simple. I was going to take her to our favorite place in Portland, the Japanese garden in Washington Park. We'd been there dozens of times over the years, but there was something about it that felt right for this moment. It was peaceful. It was beautiful. It was ours. I'd made reservations at a small restaurant nearby for dinner afterward. I'd written out what I wanted to say, then crumpled it up because it sounded too rehearsed. I'd practiced in the mirror, then felt ridiculous. I'd called Devin for moral support at least 5 times. "You're going to be fine," he'd said. "Just tell her the truth. That's all you can do." I picked Riley up at 2 p.m. She seemed surprised when I suggested the Japanese garden. "Really?" she asked as we drove through Portland, the November sky gray and overcast. "I thought you were tired of going there." "I could never get tired of going there," I said. "Especially not with you." She didn't say anything, but I could see her smile out of the corner of my eye. The garden was beautiful, even in November. The trees had lost most of their leaves, but there was something elegant about their bare branches. The water in the ponds was still and reflective. There were barely any other people there, just us and the occasional tourist with a camera. We walked for a while without talking, just walking, the way we'd walked 1,000 times before. But this time, everything felt different. This time I was hyper-aware of every moment. The way her hand brushed against mine, the way she looked at the garden like it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen, the way she turned to me and smiled, and I realized that I wanted to see that smile every single day for the rest of my life. We ended up at the Moon Bridge, the iconic arched bridge that overlooked one of the garden's most beautiful views. It was late afternoon, and the light was starting to change, turning everything golden and soft. "Riley," I said. She turned to look at me, and I could see the nervousness in her eyes. She knew something was coming. "I need to tell you something," I continued, "and I need you to let me finish before you say anything, okay?" She nodded, her hands gripping the railing of the bridge. "For the past week, I've been thinking about everything," I said. "About us, about our friendship, about how you showed up to that Halloween party in a couple costume, hoping I'd understand, about how you've been in love with me, and I was too blind to see it." She started. "Let me finish," I said gently. "Please." She closed her mouth and nodded. "I spent so long not understanding because I was scared," I continued. "I was scared that if I admitted how I felt about you, I'd ruin the best friendship I've ever had. I was scared that I wasn't good enough for you. I was scared that you'd realize you could do better. But then I realized something. I realized that the scariest thing of all would be spending the rest of my life without you, wondering what could have been." Riley's eyes were full of tears now. "I love you," I said. "I'm in love with you. Not just as my best friend, but as the person I want to wake up next to every morning, as the person I want to tell all my secrets to, as the person I want to build a life with. And I know this is terrifying, and I know we're risking everything, but I think it's worth it. I think you're worth it." She tried again. "Are you going to let me finish?" I asked, smiling. "No," she said, and then she kissed me. It was soft and sweet and perfect. It tasted like hope and relief, and all the things I'd been too blind to see. When we pulled apart, she was laughing and crying at the same time. "I love you too," she said. "I've loved you for so long." "I know," I said. "Everyone knew except me." "You're an idiot," she said, but she was smiling. "I know that too," I replied. We stood there on the moon bridge as the sun started to set, and for the first time in my life, everything made sense. All the moments that had confused me suddenly had clarity. All the things I'd misinterpreted suddenly had meaning. I'd been blind, but now I could see. We went to dinner that night at a small Italian restaurant in the Pearl District. We held hands across the table. We talked about the future. We made plans. Real plans. Plans that included each other. By the time we left the restaurant at 10 p.m., it was raining again. That gentle, persistent Portland rain that had been the soundtrack to my obliviousness. But now, walking through the rain with Riley's hand in mine, it felt like the most beautiful thing in the world. 3 months later, on February 14th, 2026, I was sitting in our apartment. Because, yes, we'd moved in together. Because when you finally figure out that you're in love with someone, you don't waste time. And I was thinking about how different my life was. Not different in a bad way, different in a way that made me wonder how I'd ever lived any other way. Riley was in the kitchen making breakfast. It was a Saturday morning and we had nowhere to be. The rain was coming down outside our window. It was February in Portland after all. But inside, everything was warm and bright. "Come eat," she called out. I came into the kitchen and wrapped my arms around her from behind. She leaned back into me, and I kissed the top of her head. "Happy Valentine's Day," she said. "Happy Valentine's Day," I replied. Though honestly, every day feels like Valentine's Day now. She turned around and hit me playfully. "That's the cheesiest thing you've ever said." "I know," I said, "but it's true." We ate breakfast together, and then we spent the day doing nothing in particular. We watched movies. We read. We took a walk through the neighborhood, even though it was raining. We talked about our dreams and our fears and our plans for the future. And I realized something. This was what I'd been missing all along. Not just the romantic aspect of being in love, but the simple, everyday joy of being with someone who knew you completely and loved you anyway. Someone who'd been there through all your worst moments and all your best moments. Someone who'd been patient enough to wait for you to figure out what everyone else already knew. That evening, as we were getting ready for bed, Riley said something that made me laugh. "You know what the craziest part is?" she asked. "What?" I replied. "That you were so oblivious that you didn't notice I was in love with you, but you were also so in love with me that you didn't even realize it." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I mean, you were always there for me," she said. "You always made time for me. You always cared about how I was feeling. You were always putting me first. You were in love with me the whole time. You just didn't know it." I thought about that. She was right. I had been in love with her. I'd just been too blind to see it. "So what you're saying is, I was in love with you the whole time, and you were in love with me the whole time, and we both just spent years being confused about it?" I asked. "Pretty much," she said, laughing. "We're idiots," I said. "Complete idiots," she agreed. But we were idiots together, and that was all that mattered. As I lay in bed that night, Riley asleep beside me, I thought about everything that had led to this moment. I thought about the Halloween party and the couple costume. I thought about the Japanese garden and the moon bridge. I thought about all the moments I'd missed, all the signs I'd ignored, all the time I'd wasted being oblivious. But I also thought about how, in the end, it had all worked out. Sometimes the biggest obstacles standing between you and love aren't external. They're not other people or circumstances or bad timing. Sometimes the biggest obstacle is simply yourself, your own blindness, your own fear, your own inability to see what's right in front of you. But if you're lucky, if you're really truly lucky, you get a second chance. You get someone patient enough to wait for you to figure it out. Someone brave enough to show up in a couple costume hoping you'll understand. Someone who loves you enough to give you time. I was the luckiest person in the world, and I would spend the rest of my life making sure Riley knew that I knew it. Thank you so much for listening to this story until the very end. Your support means everything to us. Before you go, I want to leave you with a piece of advice. Don't be like me. Don't wait until someone has to show up in a couple costume for you to realize what's right in front of your face. Pay attention to the people who love you. Notice the small gestures. See the signs. Because sometimes the greatest love story of your life is already unfolding, and you're too blind to see it. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel. Your subscription helps us continue creating beautiful, emotional narratives that touch your heart. And remember, love is all around you. You just have to be brave enough to see it and hold on to it. Thank you again, and may God bless you all with the clarity to see love when it arrives, and the courage to embrace it with both hands. Take care, and we'll see you in the next story.